I regret opening those boxes in the basement. The will was read in a sterile conference room, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and legal jargon. I barely registered the details, my mind still reeling from the funeral, the endless stream of condolences, the sheer finality of it all. Grandma Alina was gone, and I, Sarah Jenkins, was now the sole inheritor of her house in Harrow Creek, Pennsylvania. Harrow Creek, a place I hadn't visited since I was a child, a place synonymous with dusty antiques, the scent of mothballs and Grandma's endless stories about her life. Now it was mine. Mark, my boyfriend, squeezed my hand as we left the lawyer's office. "You okay?" "As okay as I can be, I guess." I managed a weak smile. It just feels so surreal. The house was a Victorian monstrosity, 3 stories of faded grandeur, complete with a wraparound porch and a turret that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale or a horror movie. The paint was peeling, the garden overgrown, but somehow it still held a certain charm, a melancholic charm. "It's big," Mark said, stating the obvious. "Tell me about it. I don't even know where to start." I felt a wave of exhaustion wash over me. This was going to be a monumental task. We started with the basics, airing out the rooms, clearing out the cobwebs, trying to make the place habitable. Grandma had been a collector, and every room was crammed with furniture, knickknacks, and boxes of stuff. The real challenge, however, was the basement. A dark, damp space accessed by a creaky wooden staircase. It was a repository for everything Grandma had deemed too precious to throw away, or perhaps too terrible to face. It smelled of mildew and earth, and the single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling cast long, distorted shadows. We found stacks of old newspapers, moth-eaten rugs, and furniture shrouded in white sheets like ghosts. And then there were the boxes. Wooden boxes, different shapes and sizes, some with ornate carvings, others plain and unassuming. Most of them were locked. "What do you think's inside?" Mark asked, peering at a particularly large box with a tarnished brass lock. "No idea. Probably old photos, letters, junk." I shrugged, trying to sound nonchalant. But something about those boxes intrigued me. They felt important. That night I couldn't sleep. The house groaned and creaked around me, every sound amplified in the silence. My mind kept drifting back to the basement, to the locked boxes, to the secrets they held. The next morning I decided to tackle the boxes. Mark was going to run into town for supplies, giving me a few hours of uninterrupted time. I started with the smallest box, a simple wooden container with a rusty latch. I tried prying it open with a screwdriver, but it wouldn't budge. Finally, I found a set of old lock picks in a drawer in Grandma's study. I had no idea how to use them, but after a few frustrating minutes, the lock clicked open. Inside, I found a collection of old photographs. Black and white images of Grandma as a young woman, posing with friends, laughing, carefree. Then I found the newspaper clippings. They were yellowed and brittle, the headlines faded but still legible. "Local girl missing. Search continues for Emily Carter. Police baffled in Carter disappearance." Emily Carter. The name rang a bell. I vaguely remembered Grandma mentioning her once or twice, a fleeting reference to a tragedy from the town's past. I dug deeper into the box. More clippings detailing the investigation, the lack of leads, the eventual cold case status. Then I found it a small, leather-bound diary. It was Grandma's. The first few entries were mundane, describing her daily life, her friends, her dreams. But as I read on, a different picture began to emerge. Grandma had been obsessed with Emily Carter. She wrote about her beauty, her charm, her vibrant personality. She followed Emily's every move, documenting her comings and goings, her interactions with others. The diary entries became increasingly possessive, almost unhinged. "She's so perfect," Grandma wrote. "I need her to understand how much I care for her." A chill ran down my spine. This wasn't the Grandma I knew. This was someone else entirely. Mark returned later that afternoon. I didn't tell him about the boxes or the diary. I didn't want him to think I was losing it. "Everything okay?" he asked, noticing my pale face. "Yeah, fine, just a bit tired." I forced a smile, but I wasn't fine. I was terrified. That night I dreamt of Emily Carter. She stood in the woods, her face obscured by shadows, her voice a whisper in the wind. "Help me," she seemed to say. "Find me." The next day I opened another box. This one was larger, heavier. It contained a collection of Emily's personal belongings, a silver locket, a hairbrush with strands of auburn hair, a worn copy of Wuthering Heights. And then I found the map, a hand-drawn map of the woods surrounding Harrow Creek with a circled area marked with an X. My heart pounded in my chest. Could it be? Could this be where Emily was buried? I showed the map to Mark. He looked at me with concern. "Sarah, this is getting out of hand. You're obsessing over something that happened decades ago. You need to let it go." "I can't, Mark. I have to know," he sighed. "Okay, fine, but I'm going with you." We followed the map into the woods. The trees were tall and imposing, the undergrowth thick and tangled. The air was heavy with the scent of pine and damp earth. After what felt like hours, we reached the circled area. It was a clearing overgrown with weeds and wildflowers. In the center was a patch of disturbed earth. "This is it," I whispered. Mark started digging. The soil was loose and easily gave way. After a few minutes, he uncovered something. A bone. He kept digging, carefully brushing away the dirt. More bones. A skull. "Oh my God," I gasped. We had found Emily Carter. We called the police. Detective Reynolds arrived on the scene, a middle-aged man with a weary expression. He listened patiently as I told him about the boxes, the diary, the map. "This is a major break in a cold case," he said. "Thank you, Miss Jenkins." The police began a full investigation. They searched the woods, the house, everything. They interviewed Mrs. Davison, the elderly neighbor who had known Grandma for years. Mrs. Davison had always been friendly, offering us cookies and advice. But when the police questioned her about Emily Carter, she became evasive. "I don't remember much," she said, her voice trembling. "It was a long time ago, but I knew she was lying. That night I couldn't sleep." I tossed and turned, haunted by images of Emily's bones, of Grandma's diary entries, of Mrs. Davison's evasive eyes. Suddenly I heard a noise. A creaking sound coming from the basement. I grabbed a flashlight and crept downstairs. The basement was dark and cold, the air thick with the scent of mildew. Then I saw her, Mrs. Davison. She was standing in front of the boxes, her face illuminated by the dim light. "What are you doing here?" I demanded. She turned around, her eyes filled with a strange, unsettling light. "I had to make sure you didn't find anything else," she said. "What do you mean?" "Alina, she wasn't a good woman. She was obsessed with Emily. She wouldn't let her go, and you? What did you have to do with it?" Mrs. Davison smiled, a chilling, unsettling smile. "I helped her. I helped Alina keep Emily quiet. My blood ran cold. You killed her. Alina did the deed. I just helped clean up after. It was a long time ago. She lunged at me. I screamed, dropping the flashlight. We struggled in the dark, the boxes tumbling around us. Suddenly, a light flashed on. Detective Reynolds stood at the top of the stairs. His gun drawn. "Mrs. Davison, step away from her." Mrs. Davison froze, her eyes wide with fear. She dropped the knife she had been holding. "It's over," Detective Reynolds said. "Mrs. Davison was arrested and charged with being an accessory to murder." The truth about Emily Carter's disappearance finally came to light. Grandma Alina had been obsessed with Emily. When Emily tried to distance herself, Grandma, with Mrs. Davison's help, lured her into the woods and killed her. They buried her body in the clearing, hoping their secret would remain buried forever. The town of Harrow Creek finally had closure, but I didn't. I spent the next few weeks sorting through Grandma's belongings, trying to make sense of it all. I donated her furniture, threw away the junk, tried to erase the darkness that had enveloped the house. One afternoon, I was cleaning out the basement one last time. I noticed a loose floorboard beneath one of the shelves. I pried it open. Beneath the floorboard, I found one final box. Small, plain, unassuming. I opened it. Inside, there was a single piece of paper, neatly folded. I unfolded it. On it, in Grandma's handwriting, was a list of names. At the top of the list was Emily Carter. Below that, in fainter ink, was Sarah Jenkins. It never really ends, does it?